Hello everybody, this is Kevin. English reading can be very challenging in tests like TOEIC or CEs. Have you done longer reading by yourself before, like reading a novel? Is there anything we can do to make English reading a little bit easier? Well, yes, today we're going to talk about skimming. Okay, so I'm gonna break this video into 3 parts. We are going to read an excerpt from Lord of the Flies with Taiwanese students' traditional reading method, and then we will read it again by skimming. Then the third part will be the comparison. This is an excerpt from Lord of the Flies. If you are a Taiwanese student, this may look familiar to you. I highlight the words which may cause some troubles to the EFL learners. When we read through it, Chinese translation will be shown except one, but we will talk about it later. Behind this was the darkness of the forest, proper in the open space of the scar. Ralph stood, one hand against a great trunk, and screwed up his eyes against the shimmering water. Out there, perhaps a mile away, the white surf flinked on a coral reef, and beyond that the open sea was dark blue. Within the irregular arc of coral, the lagoon was still as a mountain lake. Blue of all shades and shadowy green and purple, the beach between the palm terrace and the water was a thin stick. Endless apparently, for to Ralph's left, the perspectives of palm and beach and water drew to a point at infinity, and always, almost visible, was the heat. Okay, so the big question here is, what is it about? Not really clear, right? This time, we try to read it again by skimming. Instead of marking the difficult words, I highlighted the words which help us build a mental image when we read through. I may explain it in English from time to time, and we're gonna read it again, but this time with a piece of paper to draw on. Behind this was the darkness of the forest, proper in the open space of the scar. Behind you is the dark color, the shadow from the trees, and a sandy beach in front of you, which is very open. Ralph stood, one hand against a great trunk, and screwed up his eyes against the shimmering water. So you put your hand on a tree and look at the ocean. Out there, perhaps a mile away, the white surf flinked on a coral reef, and beyond that, the open sea was dark blue. It describes the color of the sea from the white to the dark blue. Within the irregular arc of coral, the lagoon was still as a mountain lake, blue of all shades and shadowy green and purple. Again, the color of the ocean and the blue, green, purple is from like the coral reefs. The beach between the palm terrace and the water was a thin stick. Endless apparently, for to Ralph's left, the perspectives of palm and beach and water drew to a point at infinity, and always almost visible was the heat. You can see the green tree shadow, the white beach, and the blue water coming to a point to your left, and this island is very hot. So when we do skimming, we want to pay more attention to the words that make sense to ourselves, like dark, open, water, white, green, blue, and so on. It's weird, right? For the first time, you didn't even notice them because you're busy paying attention to the difficult words. This time, you just neglect most of them. In fact, native speakers do it all the time. Do you remember this word flinked without a translation? It's because it's not formally a word in English. William Golding, the writer of Lord of the Flies, may have a typo or use the local dialectic words. But this won't cause a trouble to the readers, or I can show you the Mandarin version. I made up the word, but you can still get it. Cool, right? We skim all the time. So here comes the comparison. I'm not saying traditional reading method is wrong. It's useful for students to build lexical knowledge. But I believe that high school students in Taiwan have learned enough words to read English novels. If I really have to compare them, the former will be like reading a dictionary. It'll be boring, challenging, and time-consuming. I also believe that's why students in Taiwan hate reading English articles. while the latter is more like watching a movie. It'll be much easier and more interesting. In fact, I've taught my students to read the full text of Lord of the Flies in 1984. They loved it. It's not that difficult. If you want to learn skimming, you can find an experienced reader to guide you through a novel. But if you can only do it by yourself, then take a piece of paper, read through 10 pages, draw it out. Imagine that you're watching a movie. You can gradually develop the ability to skim, to read English novels. So that's the video for today. I hope you learned something. If you want to know more about English learning, reading, or speaking, please comment below. I will do my best to answer them or maybe shoot a video for a certain topic. I may talk about intensive reading in the next video. Let me know if you want to know more about it. Leave some suggestions for me and see ya.